Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivadadari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivadadari Jaya Jashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jaya Jashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jaya Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Mullidhara Radhe Jaya Radha Mullidhara Radhe Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Srila Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Haribo Nitai Gaura Haribo Nitai Gaura Haribo Nitai Gaura Haribo Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Kum Karoti Vachalam Bhungam Langayate Girin Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam. Hare Krishna, everybody. Today, oh my dear goodness, Jamuna Jai, is today Andrea's big day. I think it is. Andrea and Krishna Drew and one other person that I know there's one other person, I don't know who it is, but I think a few of them are taking a beautiful step in their spiritual life today, and we send love and prayers and blessings and good fortune to them. Hare Krishna, our dear Andrea. Thank you, Jamuna Jaya. Okay, Hare Krishna. Hi, everybody. Good to see you. Good to be here with you. Thank you for being here with me. We're reading Srimad Bhagavatam today, and from what I hear, we're reading Bhagavatam 10th Canto, chapter 29, verses 40 through 43, a very important part of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we'll go ahead and open it up. These 5 chapters, we'll go ahead and just give a context here. So the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam is quite big. There's a lot of chapters. There's 90 of them. And in these particular 5 chapters, beginning with chapter 29, you can see here in our table of contents, 29. So here, there's 5 chapters. Krishna and the gopis meet for the rasa dance. The gopis search for Krishna, the gopi song of separation, the reunion, and the rasa dance. These 5 chapters are together describe the experience of Krishna and the gopis of Vrindavan. And when you read Srimad Bhagavatam, from the very, very beginning, this is just before we get into the verses, just to give us context of what we're studying and what we're reading. The very, very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 3rd verse, we hear, "O expert and thoughtful men, women, everyone, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Shukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Nigama kalpa taro galitam phalam shuka mukar amrita dravya samyutam. Pibata Bhagavatam rasa alayam muhur aho rasika bhuvi bhavuka." This word rasam is used here. This taste, this understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam is a rasa shastra. It's a scripture, it's an elaboration on the nature of rasa, which is the exchange of love between Krishna and his devotees. And that love is something not of this world, which is experienced even by liberated souls. So somebody who's given up all sense of personal enjoyment, who's turned their back on the material world, they themselves are attracted and drawn to this experience of love between Krishna and his devotees, which means that it's something transcendental, which means it's something beyond our material understanding. And when you read the Bhagavatam, if you read it from beginning to end successively, you'll notice a marked difference in the mood and the exchange of rasa that exists in the 10th canto in the stories of Krishna and Vrindavan and the Brajabasis. There's something categorically different that takes place in the mood, in the exchange of love. And that love epitomizes, it reaches its zenith in the exchange specifically of Krishna and the gopis of Vrindavan. And that love and exchange between Krishna and the gopis of Vrindavan is specifically heightened and reached its pinnacle in Srimati Radharani. And it's so sort of deep and esoteric that Shukadeva Goswami spends a limited amount of time in it in the Bhagavatam. But this is the section where he elaborates and he describes this beautiful exchange of love that takes place between Krishna and the gopis and the rasa dance of Srimad Bhagavatam. And so that's just the context a little bit about where we are in Srimad Bhagavatam and the journey that Shukadeva Goswami has been taking us to understand thus far. So we're in chapter 29, and we're in verses 40 through 43. So let's go ahead, and we got 1, 2, 3, 4 verses to dive into. So let's go ahead and read them. Kastriyangate kalapadayata Venugita Samohitarya Charitam Nakaletri Lokyam Trailokya Sabokam Idam Cha Niriksha Rupam Yadgo Dvijadrumamriga Pulakanya Biram. Translation. Dear Krishna, I imagine this is the gopi speaking. Do we know that? Do we have the gopis speaking? Hearing these unpleasant words, but the gopis became morose. Okay, so it's the gopis. The beautiful gopis said. So this is the gopis speaking to Krishna. Dear Krishna, what woman in all the three worlds wouldn't deviate from religious behavior when bewildered by the sweet, drawn-out melody of your flute? Your beauty makes all three worlds auspicious. Indeed, even the cows, birds, trees, and deer manifest the ecstatic symptom of bodily hair standing on end when they see your beautiful form. Dear Krishna, what woman in all the three worlds wouldn't deviate from religious behavior when bewildered by the sweet, drawn-out melody of your flute? Your beauty makes all the three worlds auspicious. Indeed, even the cows, birds, trees, and deer manifest the ecstatic symptom of bodily hair standing on end when they see your beautiful form. So we get an insight into how Vrindavan functions. The cows, the birds, the trees, the deer, everyone is on the same page of being enamored by Krishna's love and Krishna's beauty. And we understand a little insight into the nature of bhakti. Srimad Bhagavatam and the Vedic literatures themselves talk a lot about the nature of dharma. The Bhagavad Gita begins with a question about dharma. Dharma kshetra kurukshetra samaveta yutsavaha mamaka pandavas chaiva kimakurvata sanjaya. That on the place of dharma, in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Dhritarashtra is asking, what did my sons and the sons of Pandava do? So this place of dharma is a battlefield. And so Bhagavad Gita, straight from the beginning, is giving you an insight that there is a tension between what is the right thing to do in a certain context. What's my dharma? What should I turn right or left? Should I engage or should I pull back? What's the right thing to do? And so much of the Mahabharata, in which the Gita takes place and is one chapter of, it's filled in the grayness. The characters of Mahabharata are so complex and sometimes confusing. Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? Was that the right thing to do? And you get these various shades of understanding that when you look at the outside of somebody doing something, you come to an immediate judgment. And then you start to look into it a little bit deeper and you start to see where they're coming from, the complexity of their situation and their emotions and their relational entanglements and their intentions. And it becomes a lot less black and white and very gray. And so understanding dharma in this world, understanding how to apply spiritual principles in material contexts is very complicated. It's not always straightforward. And from the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna has a complete and utter mental, emotional, physical breakdown and a confusion of what it means to apply dharma in very difficult circumstances and situations. And the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna culminates, Krishna's telling Arjuna so many different aspects of karma and karma yoga and detachment and knowledge and jnana and meditation and yoga. And he culminates with that understanding of dharma, sarva dharma prityaja, mammekam sharanam vraja, aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishami masuchaha. That abandon all varieties of dharma and just surrender unto me. The highest dharma, the highest function of the soul, is to engage in loving service to Krishna. And Bhagavatam itself begins and picks up on this principle in the very beginning, in the second chapter of the first canto, one of the first answers to the questions of the sages of Naimisharanya. Savai punksang paradharmo Ito bhaktir rahoksaje ahaitu kiya pratiyata yayatma suprasidati. Savai pungsang paradharma. What is the highest dharma? It is loving devotional service to that supreme personality of Godhead. And it should be unceasing, ongoing, uninterrupted, and it should be unmotivated. Rupa Goswami elaborates just as much in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu when he talks about Anyabhilasha Dashunyam, Jnana Karmajinavratam, Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhaktir Uttamam. He describes that bhakti is devoid of any ulterior desire. It's not that it has no desire. Bhakti is not free from desire. Bhakti is free from ulterior desires, other than to favorably please that sweet, charming, slightly chubby, bluish cowherd boy, Brajeshwar Nandanandana Sri Krishna. And it's not dependent, jnana karmajinavratam, it's not covered or dependent on any other process. Meaning you don't need, Queen Kunti so beautifully talks about how Janmaishwarishta Shibir Edhimana Madapumam Naivar Hatyabidatum Vai Twamakinchana Gocharam. That my dear Lord Krishna, you are the you are the property of the materially impoverished. And not just materially impoverished meaning like a low income, but materially impoverished meaning those who have recognized that this material world has nothing to offer me. There's no food for the soul here. And therefore those who are intoxicated by the glitter of the material world, wealth, beauty, the intoxication of knowledge and feeling like you know more than other people, feeling like you're in a higher class, whether it's from family or occupation or social media status or whatever it might be. These four things, high parentage and family, beauty, wealth, knowledge, these four intoxications, not that they themselves block bhakti, but the way in which we relate to them can block our bhakti. If there's a feeling of possessiveness and a madness towards achieving them and feeling like I need those things in order to be fulfilled, and I need those things in order to do my bhakti. Rupa Goswami and Srimad Bhagavatam are saying that jnana karmajinavratam, it's not dependent on any other process, on anything material. And Krishna so beautifully describes such in Bhagavad Gita. Patram pushvam phalam toyam yo me bhaktiya prayatma. Yo patram pushvam phalam toyam yo me bhakti. What's the verse? 926. Do we have our Bhagavad Gita scholars here with us?
Patram pushpam phalam
Yes, yo me bhakti prayachati.
prayachati tadaham bhakti prayitam
Ashnami
ashnami.
prayatatmanaha. Ashnami, that's what I eat. That's what I accept is the devotion. And we know the beautiful stories of Srimad Bhagavatam and the stories of Shabri and Ram Leela. So many beautiful stories. The stories of Gajendra, caught in the lake with material enjoyment, bit by the crocodile of misfortune. And all he had was a lotus plucked up from his trunk, offered to Lord Vishnu. In the mood of helplessness, a Jamil offering the holy name, even the shadow of the holy name, calling out the name of his son, but in a mood of helplessness. So we have all these examples of Krishna accepts the quality of our offering, not the content of the material quality. And so we have all this beautiful understanding that Krishna accepts the quality. And so bhakti is not dependent on any of these things. And it's favorably directed towards Krishna. So bhakti is a process of falling in love with this charming, sweet, beautiful cowherd boy, Brajendra Nandana, Sri Krishna, Gopi Jana Vallabha, Giridharadhari. And so when it comes to the idea of dharma, Krishna explains, Sarva dharmam prityaja mam ekam sharanam braja. Abandon all other senses of obligation, duties, or responsibility, and just surrender unto me. And the Srimad Bhagavatam is a continuous case study of this principle. Prahlad Maharaj went against every fiber of his upbringing, his teachers, his own father, and had an unflinching, undeviated love and devotion to his Supreme Beloved, to the point where he was threatened of death. Haridas Thakur in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, born and raised in a Muslim family, fell in love with Krishna, practiced Nam Kirtan. The government at the time was disturbed that he was causing rifts in the community because there was such material consciousness of divisions between religious groups at that time, between Muslims and Hindus, that both parties couldn't tolerate each other. And so the idea that one person was switching camp to the other was such a crime, they threatened to murder him. And Haridas Thakur said, what's the big deal? God is one. Why are we talking about all these separations and divisions and distinctions? And the government official at the time said, yes, that's true, God is one, so why have you switched? And Haridas Thakur said, what can I say? My heart belongs to that sweet, beautiful, beloved of the gopis, Sri Krishna. And even if you cut my body into 1,000,000 pieces, every single piece of my body will reverberate with the sound of Krishna. We aspire for that type of love and devotion. We aspire for that love and devotion. And when we find ourselves here in the stories of the gopis, what is the stories of the gopis? Krishna called them in the middle of the night. They left everything behind. They abandoned everything. And there was nothing to go back to. Just to simply be with Krishna in the moonlight of Vrindavan. And so this example of the gopis in Vrindavan, we hear, what woman in all the three worlds wouldn't deviate from religious behavior? What is religious behavior? From a bhakti perspective. Charitat. Chari means activity, behavior. Brahmachari means a student of Brahman. Chaitanya Charitamrita, the immortal activities, Charita, of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Charita means the activities. Arya Charita, the activities of civilized people. Srimad Bhagavatam and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to revolutionize our understanding of what is dharma, what is religious behavior. Is it the following of rules and regulations to a T? What are all the checklists of things I need to do in order to be a good devotee? What are all the things I need to check off my list and make sure that I have on my report card? Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita describes this checklist as Vaidhi Bhakti. And there is value in understanding and going through the motions, faking it till you make it, flexing the enthusiasm muscle, doing the things even though we don't feel like it. Because when you do the activities of love, you invoke the feelings of love, but only if it's done in the mood of, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describes, Srinada Pisunichana, Torori Vasahishana, Amanina, Manarina, Kirtaniya Sadahari. That in the mood of a beggar, in the mood of wanting to unlock something deep within the heart that's on the other side of a door that only unlocks from the inside. And so it's not through my prowess, it's not through my grit, it's not through my performance that I'm going to somehow force the hand of Krishna. The Srimad Bhagavatam well, Vedic literatures has what's known as the Sat Darshans, 6 schools of Vedic philosophy. There is, in no particular order, Yoga, Sankhya, Vaisheshika, Karma Mimamsa, Nyaya, and Vedanta. 6 schools of philosophy. And our acharyas describe that Srimad Bhagavatam is an expose of these 6 schools of philosophy, and we follow the school of Vedanta. We follow the school of Vedanta as Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And the Srimad Bhagavatam points out at least one, if not multiple, critical flaws in these various schools of philosophy. So yoga, for example, has the Ashtanga Yoga system, the Eightfold Path of Yoga. And interestingly, in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, many of the verses that are there in the Yoga Sutras are also described in Srimad Bhagavatam. The yamas and the niyamas are there, outlined in Srimad Bhagavatam. And the Ashtanga Yoga process is outlined in Srimad Bhagavatam, as described by Kapila Muni to his mother, Devahuti. But one critical flaw of the yoga system that our acharyas described is that Patanjali describes Ishwara Pranidhan. There is the idea of Ishwara Pranidhan, which, again, the Yoga Sutras was compiled after Srimad Bhagavatam, if you're looking for the historical correlation. But Patanjali didn't write the Yoga Sutras, he compiled them from different places, just like Vyeda Vyas was the compiler of the Vedas. And so these scriptures, these sutras have been around for time immemorial and compiled by great sages in order for us to understand and navigate our way through them. So this idea of Ishwara Pranidhan is there. But there's no real description of who Ishwar is. And so Kapila corrects this flaw. And in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, you'll find this very detailed, technicolor description about the form of Lord Vishnu. And he says, you want to meditate? You want to understand meditation? You want to understand samadhi? You want to understand dharana, dhyana, and samadhi? Then you meditate on the beautiful form of Lord Vishnu. And there's like verses and verses and verses and verses, entire chapter described to the beautiful form of Lord Vishnu. And it personalizes the process of yoga. Another school of philosophy is Karma Mimamsa, which is the idea that the performance of ritual is the all in all, and that when you perform the ritual, the gods must respond. And that God himself becomes subservient to the ritual. That when you perform the yajna, when you perform the activities, when you chant the mantras properly, then you must receive the benefit and the reciprocation. And it's all about doing things right. And when you come to the 4th canto of the Bhagavatam, you find a complete rejection of this entire principle. You have the Daksha Yajna, a complete chaos of a yajna, where Daksha did everything right, yagyali, I don't know if that's a word, yagyically, sacrificially, but he offended a devotee in Lord Shiva. And the entire sacrifice was desecrated. You have the story of who's the one Krishna Diaper or somebody, what's his name? It's not
Chitraketu.
No, it's with the P later on, who's performing all this the animal sacrifices.
Prachni Barhishat.
Prachini Barishat? Or was it
Yeah.
Puranjana?
No, Puranjana comes in the next life. It's an allegory.
Allegory.
Right. Yeah.
Puranjana, right? The performing of all the animal sacrifices. He was performing all of these animal sacrifices in the name of Vedic Yajna, in the name of enjoyment. And then Narada Muni came along and had to teach him, like, this is all coming back to you in karma. But he was like, I'm doing the yajna right. Yes, but you're harming other living beings. So it's not about the yajna. It's about what is pleasing to Krishna. And so Daksha had everything right from from a yajna perspective, but he offended a devotee. And so we understand that the yajna, the performance, the list of things, if it's done in a mood of I'm trying to do all the right things in order to get something from someone, then it's not in a mood of bhakti. If I'm doing everything in a mood, I want to unlock my love for Krishna, then we move the heart of God in such a way that Krishna becomes inspired to award us bhakti, which in and of itself is independent. And so when we talk about this idea of right action, arya charita, religious behavior, dharma, as we evolve in our Krishna consciousness, we understand that religious behavior is what's pleasing to Krishna. And there's a sensitivity and understanding what's pleasing to Krishna. How do we know what's pleasing to Krishna? What's pleasing to the Vaishnavas and to our gurus? We have to have a sensitivity in our service to pay attention to how our activities are affecting the devotees around us, and if it's in alignment with the instructions of our gurus and our teachers. So we never act independently. We maintain our intelligence and our critical thinking, but we don't exist in a vacuum. And therefore the importance of having guru in our life to guide us and to instruct us, and the importance of moving with a sensitivity. It's so interesting when you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So much of the Chaitanya Charitamrita is about everything that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does. He considers the impact that it has on the devotees. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, he broke the heart of the devotees. But he knew he had to do it. And so he did it in consideration of what would ease the pain of the devotees, knowing that he was taking sannyas and moving out of Navadvip. And so instead of going to Vrindavan, he went to Jagannath Puri on the petition of his mother. And then after moving to Jagannath Puri, he went on a tour of South India. And before touring South India, he took the permission of the devotees in order to tour South India. And you find all of these examples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu seeking the blessings and the permissions of the devotees before undertaking an initiative, and teaching us this sensitivity of being in touch and in tune with the community of devotees, and ensuring that what we're doing is not is minimizing the harm that we cause to other devotees. And if my service, if I get so caught up in my service to Krishna, it's the quality of a Kanishta Adhikar described in Bhagavatam and other Shastra, that we're in love with the deity, but we forget that the presence of the deity is there in the hearts of every living being. And I become so absorbed in my service to Krishna that I mistreat other devotees. How is that pleasing to Krishna? I become so absorbed in my service to Krishna that I become neglectful of Krishna's devotees. And so we perform the highest dharma as our service to Krishna. And what's pleasing to Krishna? We have to be sensitive into what's pleasing to Krishna's devotees, and to what guidance are we getting from our gurus and our teachers. This is what's coming up for me when I read. What woman in all three wouldn't deviate from religious behavior and will be bewildered by the sweet, drawn-out melody of your flute? Because that is the highest religious behavior, is to simply find the sweetness of Krishna's flute to be the most enchanting sound in the universe. To be enamored by his beauty, and to be a soul surrendered unto him. And we have that's where we get the final verse in the Shikshastakam. Shikshastakam. The final verse. Aslishyava padaratam panoshtamam adarshana marma hatam kurotuva yata tata va vididhatu lampato mat prananatastu sa eva naparaha. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord. and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is describing this verse in the mood of Srimati Radharani and the Gopis. That this is the highest Dharma. That Krishna is my only shelter. Krishna Sharanam Mama. And he shall remain so no matter what. That is the test of our bhakti. That when life hits a rough patch, when I don't seem to be getting what I thought I was supposed to get from my devotional service, life hasn't gotten easier, I'm not getting more whatever. Is it really working? What's the point? The point is that I'm simply offering myself to Krishna with no expectation of anything in return. That's the aspirational space we want to get to. We're not there. We can't pretend to be there. We need to take care of ourselves along the way to make sure that we are comfortable enough in our devotional service to continue going, but we know the destination we want to arrive at. So we're hearing these aspirational experiences of the gopis of Vrindavan. I have a few minutes left and I got 3 more verses to read. Vyaktam bhavam brajaba bhayarti haro bijato devo yatadi purusha suruloka gopta tanno nidehi karapankajam artabando tapta staneshu chasira shirashu chakinkarinam. Clearly you have taken birth in this world to relieve the fear and distress of the people of Braj. Just as the Supreme Personality of God, the primeval Lord, protects the domain of the demigod. It's so interesting that they're talking about the Supreme Lord, not knowing that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God, because the residents of Vrindavan don't even really know or even care that Krishna is God. Therefore, O friend of the distress, kindly place your lotus hand on your maidservants' heads and burning breasts. Please place your head on our chest and enter into our heart and relieve the burning pain of our separation from you. So instructive to us as devotees. Where do we go to take shelter? I'm looking for relief. The world is burning. Bhava Mahadavagni. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, the world is like a burning forest fire. And my bhakti in this life is simply a training ground of learning how to take shelter and recognize that the only relief, the only cooling balm that soothes the burn of my heart is Krishna's loving touch in my life. I don't have that conviction, but I want that conviction. And I aspire for it. And so I read these verses in a mood of humility and begging at the lotus feet of the gopis of Vrindavan to bless us with a drop of their devotion. Shri Shuka Uvacha Iti viklavitam tasham srutva yogeshvareshvara prahasya sadhayam gopir atmaramo pi ari ramat. Shukadev Goswami said, smiling upon hearing those despondent words from the gopis, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Master of all masters of mystic yogi, mercifully enjoyed with them, although he is self-satisfied. So he himself is so self-satisfied, but he's moved so much by the love of the gopis that he becomes subservient to their loving desire. Last verse. Tabi sameta bi udara chestita prayakshanot pula mukir bi achyutya udara hasya dvijakunda didatir vyaro chatainan tainanka ivo dubhirvrita. Among the assembled gopis, the infallible Lord Krishna appeared just like the moon, surrounded by stars. He whose activities are so magnanimous made their faces blossom with affectionate glances. Then his broad smiles revealed the effulgence of his jasmine bud-like teeth. Kishore and I would tell this story when we would do our kirtan trainings often. It's just a sweet little scene from Vrindavan that one day Radharani was walking through the forest, and Krishna saw her but Radharani didn't quite see him yet. And when Krishna saw Radharani coming, he smiled. And the joy of Krishna, somehow, because they're so connected in the heart, it stirred something up in Radharani, and she looked around, and she saw Krishna smiling at him. And when she saw Krishna smiling, it made her smile. And when Krishna saw Radharani smile, it made his smile get even bigger. And when Radharani saw Krishna's smile increase, it made her smile even bigger. And when Krishna saw Radharani's smile get even bigger, he couldn't help but just somehow his mouth expanded to a bigger smile that almost took over his entire face. And when Radharani saw that, she couldn't help but expand the already effulgent smile on her face. And you know what Krishna did when he saw Radharani's smile increase. And on it's exchange of just this unending ocean of love that is itself infinite but yet ever expanding. And so Krishna made their faces blossom with affectionate glances. And his broad smiles revealed the effulgence of his jasmine bud-like teeth. And when they saw that smile, they themselves become enamored. And the love just eternally grows and develops and deepens. Purport. The word achyuta here indicates the Lord Krishna did not fail to give pleasure to each and every gopi in the nocturnal assembly. Krishna is Rasaraj, Akila Rasamritamurti. He's the complete embodiment of all rasa.
Quality.
And he is able to reciprocate with each and every one of our love. And so don't worry, don't stress, don't ever think for a moment that you're forgotten. Don't ever think that you have nothing to offer Krishna, because you have a flavor of love which he can't get anywhere else. The rasa in your heart, buried under all the rubble of material desire and upadhis and identifications, all of that, untainted, is the love of your soul, which is the salient quality of who you are. And Krishna is so sensitive that he can taste it. And he's mad after it. And he has every capacity to fully reciprocate with your love completely. It may take this lifetime, it may take next lifetime, it may take 1,000,000 lifetimes. But how blessed and fortunate are we that at the end of our journey in this material world, which through the grace of our teachers and spiritual masters and the grace of devotees and the grace of Radha Mulidhar and Gaur Chandra, who descended into the city of New York and are blessing all of us and Srila Prabhupada, that there's a high chance that if we just stick to the process, Krishna will pull us out of the material world at the end of this life. And we ourselves have the opportunity to dance with Krishna in the spiritual world, or to assist those devotees who are dancing in the spiritual world, to be a blade of grass that's trampled on during the dance of Krishna and the gopis in the spiritual world, which was the prayer of Uddhava. Let me just be a blade of grass that gets trampled by these amazing devotees. We have that great fortune to be plucked out of the material world and to know that Krishna reciprocates and sees our service and is waiting to dance with us, waiting to trample on us, waiting to embrace us. And so don't lose hope. Don't be discouraged. Take heart and keep these beautiful, beautiful, beautiful verses and sentiments of the devotees of Vrindavan close in your heart. And know that no matter how imperfect our devotional service looks, none of that matters, because all that Krishna is looking for is the sincerity of our heart. And therefore, just keep throwing yourself at Krishna. The only thing you have to lose is your ego. The only thing you have to lose is the embarrassment of, I'm not like perfect the way I thought I was. But your devotion can be perfect if just keep throwing yourself at Krishna. And eventually everything else will shake away and you'll be left staring at Krishna in the moonlight. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. I went all the way to the end. It's 8:01. I don't know if we have time for questions or we're going to have darshan now.
Thank you, Dayal Gauranga, for a great class. And it looks like the darshan is going to happen. Yeah.
Jai.
Dear devotees, if you like, you can stay for the afterglow if you can. And turn on your cameras if you can. Thank you, Isabel. Thanks, Beam, Poppy C, Jamuna Jaya, there she is. Hare Krishna. Okay. The darshan is the feet of the devotees. Okay. Thank you, Adi Purusha Prabhu, for helping us take darshan of Krishna. Okay. So we have two questions in the chat. One is, what does it mean when we say three worlds? Does it mean third world country or something? And the second question is, what's the difference between false ego and our true self? Both questions are for William and family. Dayal Gauranga, would you like to address those questions?
Questions for me? The three worlds refers to, it's just the way that the universe is structured according to Vedic cosmology. There's higher, middle, and lower planetary systems. So basically just refers to the entirety of the universe. Not three Earths, but just the three worlds, meaning just the way the universe is structured, the entirety of the universe. And the difference between the false ego and ego means identity. So false ego is the idea that I am the doer, that I'm my mind or my body or the identities of the material world. And the ego is the true ego, which is I'm in a spirit soul. Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Krishna Nityadas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructs to Sanatana Goswami that we are eternal spirit soul, servant of Krishna.
See, we're all spirit souls, not just Isabel. Everybody on this call is a spirit soul. Yeah. Thank you, Dayal Gauranga Prabhu. Okay, we can take one more reflection or a question. I see Jamuna Jai has her camera on, and she always has a reflection, but not this time. Jamuna Jai.
I'm afraid I'm too much into my commute to have much of a question. I have to buy my metro card. Hare Krishna, beautiful class.
Yeah, so many wonderful one-liners Dayal Gauranga Prabhu threw at us towards the end. Keep throwing yourself at Krishna. Krishna is mad after you. It's so nice, Dayal Gauranga Prabhu. I like that final rant, transcendental rant that you had. You were on fire, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Thank you all so much for your enthusiasm for Srimad Bhagavatam. Please forgive forgive everything from me. Just thank you for accepting me and encouraging me. And Hare Krishna. Thank you all.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhus. Thank you, Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Bhima Prabhu, you look like an icon, like an Orthodox icon with that halo around you. How did you do that?
That's
Are you that pure? How was that?
yeah. No, this is a bug net. Keep the bugs out of my face while I'm out in the fields. It's actually simultaneously a wedding veil after hearing wonderful things about the gopis, and it's a simultaneous funeral veil. It's a funeral. My material life is dying.
Yeah.
I'm dying. Yes.
We're dead to the material world. Yeah, thank you. And we're marrying Krishna. We're all female, despite the beards and other things. Okay.
I'm the ugliest bride that ever was.
Okay, yeah, let's send her our blessings Andrea's way. She's getting initiated. I can't wait to find out her devotee name. I'm really excited for Andrea. She's really the presiding deity of this community. Yeah. Yes, Miriam, she's the deity. Okay. All right. Hare Krishna, everyone. See you again tomorrow. Hare Bol.